Good morning. My name is Mariusz Dąbrowski. I am the president of the Jerzy Stelmach Eureka Foundation, which deals with interactive education and popularization of frontal scientific research. The foundation gathers active scientists, and therefore, for a couple of days, we offer you lectures and debates under the project Science Closer to the Society, session 6. And this session is special because it's entitled Extraterrestrial Life and Civilizations, Where and How to Search for Them. The project is co-financed by the Polish Ministry of Science and Higher Education. We have already had a number of activities related to the current session. We had the talk by Professor Paul Davies, a specialist also about with contact with the SETI group. We had a talk also yesterday by Professor João Maguejo from the Imperial College London. Today, I invited two guests to present the debate on the topic, Are We Alone in the Universe? This will be kind of also both based on the basic sciences material, but also on some other sciences achievements, including psychology and theology. This is why I invited for the session two guests. The first guest is Reverend Professor Zdzisław Kroplewski from the Institute of Psychology, University of Szczecin. Good morning, Professor Kroplewski.
Good morning. Nice to be with you.
And I also invited my colleague from the Szczecin Cosmology Group, Professor Vincenzo Zalzano. Hello, Enzo.
Good morning.
Okay, we start our debate with the basic question which actually was posed during for the title of this talk. I would like to ask the question, are we alone in the universe, or reverse it in a way, asking in what sense the life on Earth is unique, that we could really think that we are really alone in the universe. How is unique this life from the point of view, maybe first of the basic sciences? So perhaps I can ask first this question to comment on by Professor Zalzano. Can you comment, do you think that the life is really unique in the universe?
I think that's a very hard question to be asked at noon of a Saturday of a weekend because it's very deep and I mean, first of all, because we were talking also yesterday of
from the point of view of physics and cosmology. I'm not asking a kind of a personal view. It's a hard question. Of course, I would like to ask also Professor Kroplewski about it, but I want to start first from the say basic sciences, then getting into humanity, into some art sciences.
The point is that even from the physical point of view, there is not a unique answer because given the same ingredients, some people could tell you no, Life is a very special end of a series of many, many steps which have happened on the earth, but it's very hard that could happen somewhere else. And other people could just tell you that, yes, it's possible based on some very gross statistical estimation. Actually, I guess that there are two different uh, ways to address this. One is the principle of mediocrity, which is a sort of Copernican principle, which means, what does it mean? The Copernican principle basically tells you that Earth is not in any special position in the universe, is not a special place, is not a special planet. The sun is a very average star. So if life started on a very average planet around a very average star, it should happen everywhere. This is a bit like I would make a joke on myself. No, I'm a typical Italian. I'm short, dark hair. If you walk in Italy, how many people like me you will find? A lot. Why? Because I'm a typical average Italian. If you ask me how many tall, blonde, and blue-eyed Italian there are, well, uh, there are, but it's much more difficult. I guess more or less, of course, it's a bit of joking, but just to make understand what is here the question. So on one hand, we have the principle of mediocrity, which tells we are average. So average multiplied on all the possibilities gives you a very large probability. But on the other hand, there is something which is called rare Earth hypothesis. And as you can understand from this, it means that the possibility that there is life, and I'm not even talking about intelligent life. Life is a very, very rare hypothesis. And if we talk about probabilities, it's very close to zero. I have learned recently that if you ask to some evolutionary scientists, they will tell you that life is almost impossible in the universe. We are the one of the steps of a series of accidents. If you ask to some biologists or some physicists, they will tell you that it's possible, or no, not possible. It's probable. How much probable? We try. Yesterday we were talking about this Drake formula, which is a way to put numbers. But these numbers have such a large range that we don't know how many and in how many places there could be life. And then if we start to ask also for intelligent life, that's even more difficult.
But this mediocrity principle, as you gave this example of a typical Italian, so if you apply the smallest sample, okay, the mediocrity has different result when compared to when you apply a bigger sample. If you include other nations, then mediocrity is different. So it's kind of an idea which I was talking about on Thursday, that the universe started, the concept of the universe started before Copernicus. It was just the solar system. Then in the 1920s of the previous century, the universe became a galaxy. And then everybody agreed that it's more than one galaxy. Now we have Hubble horizon, and then maybe multiverse or something like that. So the sample available enlarges. So this mediocrity somehow also depends on the statistical sample. Isn't it correct? Or yeah.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I will then turn this question to Professor Kroplewski. So are we really alone in the universe? And in particular, I'm asking you because you are a theologian also. So I'm asking if this kind of statement that we are not alone is in any conflict with theology.
So it's probably it's a difficult question, and it's difficult to answer. First of all, theology doesn't work too much about alliance, about extraterrestrial some kind of beings. So really, there are not a lot of discussion in theology. So we could just think if it is accordance with Bible, for example, that the alliance or some another kind of life in the universe can be also accepted. But I could say a little bit about my opinion as a, because I am working now more as a psychologist, not as a theologian, but of course I am theologian as a priest and studied theology and everything. But anyway, I think if we accept that it could be some kind of extraterrestrial life in the universe, in my opinion, it is not contradictory to the theology or to the belief that God exists. Because if we, because it is really the image of God, if we say that the God is really infinitive and he can do everything, so it means that he could allow to be the life in the universe and in the other part of our galactic. So, from the theological point of view, first of all, it is not a big issue that theologians are working on. And the other thing is that if we accept and we will have a condition that the extraterrestrial life is a reality, that it is not contradiction against theology.
But why did it happen in the past that these ideas, which actually we learned that they were even started during the Greek philosophers' time, about the say alien civilizations or other civilizations, why it was, for example, in the previous centuries, a couple of centuries ago, so hard that people like Giordano Bruno or others were talking about such things. Was it more political, or was it based on some?
It is just the other way of understanding the faith, because when we go back in the centuries, the understanding of the faith was quite different, because it is also in Christianity especially that Christianity is a unique religion. It means that the God came to the earth. So we have Jesus Christ as the Son of God who saved the world, saved the human being. And when we say that God is ascended into onto the earth, and it is a kind of that he has sacrificed human being, and because of this point of view, Christianity, and especially Christian believers, they thought that it is impossible that it could be a different kind of life in the universe. But today, probably you can find people like this that will say that it is against the Christian beliefs. Probably you will. But in my opinion, it is not against Christian beliefs, because if it is just the matter of who is God. It is really the first question in any religion. If we know who is God, if he is infinitive, if he is almighty, he can do everything. And he could choose people on the earth to be saved. It means that he could also choose the other human beings. Because, when we are talking about extraterrestrial, about alliance, about other kind of life, probably it is more a question to cosmologists and even to biologists. What does it mean, life? Because we have really only the definition of life as it is on the Earth. I think that we are going also to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Is it also the life or it is not? Probably not in this kind of life as we understand in biology. So really, there are too many questions about extraterrestrial and about the life on the other planets or wherever in the universe. So it is very difficult to answer all the questions. But
I can say that my impression is that people who now consider that this uniqueness of life on Earth is the axiom are in minority, I think, or supposedly, at least among the scientists. Okay, they are in minority because they are aware of kind of a richness of the possibilities. So maybe as a by side, okay, let me slightly come to what you said about the diversity of the
can I add something?
Yes,
because
please. Yes, please.
yeah, because as I told you yesterday, I was studying, and I found a very interesting article from the IITs from Frank Tipler. Frank Tipler is the author, together with John Barrow, of this Anthropic Principle book, and this is a brief history of extraterrestrial intelligence concept. And it is really nice because I didn't know many things. And for example, connecting to what was said by Professor Kroplewski, I mean, we nowadays, from the point of view of culture, and we assume some things which are actually just the end of a lot of thoughts and discussion which happen. For example, you introduced the idea of Greeks, no? And the Greeks, in specifically the atomists, were the first one to think about other worlds.
Yes.
But Aristotle was totally against it. And as we know, historically, Western culture started from Aristotle's thoughts. So the initial debate, also among the father of church, was philosophical and logical. And there were people claiming, following Aristotle and saying that, no, it's not possible. And others saying, like Professor Kroplewski said, if God is infinite, powerful, and so on, he could create as many worlds as we want. So, and I want to add the last thing about Giordano Bruno, because sometimes Giordano Bruno is seen like he was inquired by the Inquisition and he was killed. And some people wrongly think that he was killed because he defended the Copernican principle. Mm-hmm. Actually, no. He took the Copernican principle just to go against the church. But he didn't like Copernicus. He liked the idea of the many worlds, and he took it to criticize the church. So he was killed not because he was in defense of science, but for, as you say, for political reasons. So just a clarification about this.
It is quite understandable for me, yes, or at least for some people, that it was more political, and in particular since Aristotle already and Greek philosophers already were talking about some other civilizations, and then Christianity took it somehow from Aristotle. So this I understand. But I have some other question. Maybe
there is some question on chat. Can we answer it now, or it is not the?
Yes,
because it is about the topics we are just talking about.
Okay, from the Bible, in the book of Genesis, we learn that the sons of God came down to earth and interbred with humans. Could this be a religious example suggesting that extraterrestrials were once among us? Yeah, this is my next question, in fact, because my question is that, in fact, some people think that the visit of say, Christ or other gods, say, who visited Earth, or the aliens were kind of gods visiting the Earth. Okay, so I think this is exactly what is written in this comment. So, so is there any psychological mechanism that people think like this, that in fact gods were aliens, etc.? So this is, yes, this is what.
Okay, so first of all, this question that was put in the chat. So first of all, we cannot look at the Bible as the historical or scientific book. Bible has a special, it is a special thought for us as a relation between human beings, between people and God. So especially the Old Testament, like a book of Genesis, is not a historical book. So we have to think about the events that are described in the Bible, and especially in this first books of Old Testament, as we call them, Torah. They are trying to convince the Jewish people that there is only one God who can save them and who can bring them to the Holy Land, to the chosen land there is for them in Canaan. So really everything is under this general statement. And because of that, we cannot say that this, when there is anything in chapter 6 in Genesis about the Son of God that descended into the earth, we cannot say anything that it is about extraterrestrial, not at all. Because we cannot think about the Bible as a historical book, especially not in our understanding as we understand scientific books with the facts, the real facts, not just about some stories. It is really, the Bible is a story about the relation between God and human being, and how God is revealing himself to human being. That's the main point. So we cannot talk about this kind of description in the Bible as real facts that happened. That's first. And then, why is it that if people are really scared about the alliance or extraterrestrial kind of life, of course they are scared, because everything what is unknown, it makes that we have some kind of fears, and we have some kind of unknown reality, means that we are not really used to deal with the things like this, and then we are scared. When I was thinking about this today's meeting, I looked to the psychological articles about these questions, and because normally there are not a lot of articles about extraterrestrial, but it is one article. It is the title is "Attitudes Toward the Scientific Search for Extraterrestrial Life Among Swedish High School and University Students." And do you know what was the conclusion of this experimental really work? That the great majority of students believe that extraterrestrial life exists. Most students regard searching for extraterrestrial life to be quite important or very important. Very few students think that we should actively avoid searching for extraterrestrials. And the most common motive for assigning a high priority to search for extraterrestrial life is that it is interesting. It's very interesting, really, output of this scientific, psychological, and maybe a little bit sociological research, because I didn't think about that young people are really interested in this thesis, in these topics, but they are, and they don't. I don't know how deep was this empirical research, but they are not afraid. They are not really afraid of thinking about, and they think that we shouldn't avoid to make research and to do some kind of work and to search for extraterrestrial life in the universe. That's really promising, because people are not afraid of asking some difficult questions.
So they are, in fact, maybe somehow they know about this, all these projects of SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which we were talking about also during the debate with Paul Davies. And I think maybe this also makes a positive contribution onto them. But they are also, I guess, reasonable in the sense that they already know that planets around other suns are reality. Something which was not the case when I was a teenage or a young child. People didn't know about the existence of the planets. Nowadays, we know that there are planets. So somehow
there are a lot of discussions now in publicly discussions about the universe, about cosmos, about how big we are and how expanding is the universe. So really, people before, people were not so interested in these topics because it was not really present in public discussions. Now it is more. And it is more, really, people can read, can listen to all of these topics. And because of that, I think even young people who are not really dealing with cosmology or some kind of extraterrestrial life, some kind of science, so they are probably as human beings interested in it, in this topic.
Exactly what we are doing even today. Yes,
yeah,
we
exactly.
are trying to somehow make it's the idea is the science closer to the society. Okay, that's the topic of our program, which we are running as our foundation. So
yeah,
yes,
but if I can follow a little bit, if you allow me some more.
Please. Yes.
Because I was looking on the literature about this topic in psychology. And because I didn't know how many scientific articles are now written. For example, there is an article and empirical studies, beliefs and opinions about the existence of life outside the Earth. But really, it is more, and it is a special questionnaire, psychological questionnaire about the beliefs. But it is about UFO, how do you pronounce it really in English? UFO or UFO?
UFO, yes.
UFO experience questionnaire. So it is the questionnaire if we believe in UFO, or we really, if we have met anything what could be said that it is a kind of UFO. Yes. So it is very interesting that it is now, it is really the recent researches. It means that also many psychologists are trying to expand their researchers not only on our psychic emotions or whatever in our stress and everything, like frustrations and some kind of some kind of psychological illness or disorders. They are also interested in researchers of beliefs in extraordinary life in the universe. That's very, very amazing, really. How expanded this topic also in the psychological literature. That's just a little bit.
I still want to just a moment. I still want to ask this question precisely because somehow there are people who claim that all these prophets, etc., were kind of aliens in the past, or there were visits of extraterrestrial civilizations. So somehow they are gods, or they made human to believe in gods because they were present somewhere. I think your view is that it had nothing to do. There is a separate type of religion,
of course,
and visits of aliens.
Yes, because first of all, Christianity has nothing to do with the some kind of alliance who are a kind of gods who have visited the earth. It is contradictory with Christianity. We have the belief there are only three big religions in the world, where is the only one God belief. So anything like this, it is not. We are not talking about gods. We could just talk about some kind of, as we name it, extraterrestrial life, some kind of identified life, whatever we call it.
Okay, I understand. And so you wanted to say something?
Yeah, because we were talking about the psychology, and unfortunately, I was not able to find it, but I remember that I found some times ago statistics about how many events from the Earth of UFOs or UVN, like we call now, we have. And it was funny because there was a peak in the 50s in the US.
Okay.
In the middle of Cold War, there was nothing in Soviet Union. And this is for sure, I guess, psychological. And also there was another one which showed how there were fewer and fewer observations with ages. And nowadays, it was funny because the discussion was, nowadays, everybody of us has a mobile phone. There should be a peak of observing these events because everybody is making photos and we have nothing. Compared to previous times, we have nothing. So it is psychological, yes, and also technological, I would say, how we
yes,
use it.
I can confirm 2 hours ago we had amateur astronomers here for the discussion about some observations of UFO, and they also reported the statistics that the most occupied time when the reports about UFO are sent to them or to some say people who can handle this is Friday evening.
Okay, but
so this psychological factor is also taken into account, of course.
So adding something what Professor Vincenzo Solzano said, I think in 50s it was a quite different situation because so we are not so old that we remember what was going on in 1950s, but I think that in that time, when anything happened like something unusual on the field. Some farmer found something unusual. They said it is a sign on UFO that something came to the earth. Now, because we have more possibilities to prove if it is really something extraordinary or it is just some kind of normal or some normal phenomenon. That because of that there is not so many beliefs in UFOs coming to the earth, but it is still. Professor Salzano said something about United States. It is really very well known that in US there are many probably it is the most they are the most believers in UFOs that they came to the earth. Because it is sometimes Americans are more superstitious than the other nations. I think I know that what I said, it is also superstition because it is too general opinion. But it is when you look at the literature and at the articles in newspapers, the most of them are from America.
Yes,
because I think it is a background for the beliefs like this.
We think that also Hollywood is making a lot of
Probably
because
of this.
they have a lot of films which deal with all these issues.
Yeah, exactly.
So somehow it becomes popular. Okay, let me perhaps come back to some physical ground of all this. In fact, we have apparently, even on the Earth, we have quite a diversity of the humans, physically, cultural. Okay, we have various races. Okay. People with the different colors of the skin, etc. And all this comes from very specific, very restricted on the earth, fundamental physical laws and constants. But still we have a lot of diversity. I am, in particular, I would like to perhaps discuss this with Professor Zalzano. Can we expect that still the same kind of diversity could be on a different planets, or they would, even within the same laws of physics, they would look differently? What do you think, Vincenzo?
Well, some people say that life is inevitable because when life started, it was an irreversible process which you could not stop. Nowadays, we can see around us that life can express in many, many ways, starting at our knowledge, starting from the same type of multicellular beings, we have arrived to a variety which is enormous. Because we have to remember that starting from trees to flowers to birds to us to insects to mushrooms, whatever, everything started from the same ancestor or ancestors, let's say. So the variety is a consequence of the many ways in which life can develop. In physics, we call it complexity. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. But if you take 1 million of cells plus 1 million of cells is not 2 millions, because the web, the interconnection which is created, produces a lot of more properties. In physics, we call it emergent. Actually, we think that intelligence, whatever it means, is an emergent property of how neurons are connected. And if there is the chance to start in any other place, I will say that the very basic and initial steps, but this is my personal view, the very initial steps, so I'm talking about molecules which start to join and then create the first very simple organisms, I guess, my personal opinion, it should be very, very similar to us. What happens after with more complex organisms, that is totally different. Also because here we enter again in the same problem which we were facing before. What are the initial conditions? In physics, we always, when we have to solve an equation, we ask, what are the initial conditions? Because in many places, in many systems, if you change a little bit the initial conditions, the evolution is totally different. Life is that kind of place. Even if there were a planet not equal, but very, very similar, but not equal, the conditions will be very, very similar, but not equal. And what comes after will be totally different, would be totally different. So I expect that we should have the same variety which we have here, but very likely, it will not the same. It will not be the same variety. Although I have to say something, the last thing, that I was reading, because I had to teach this subject to last year or 2 years ago to the students, and I was reading the Entropy Principle book from Tibler and Barrow. And because in a naive way, no, we expect that life must come out, and must come out in many different ways. In that book, but in that book, I found something which, for me as a scientist, was even more exciting, because it had a physical meaning, and it was the following: if the physical laws are the same everywhere in the universe, then we can expect that there could be statistically some place where there are human beings, not human beings, living beings, which can have a very high degree of similarity with us. Because actually the point here is not anymore is not only if life can happen, but how life develops. And developing is based on physics, chemistry. And the laws of physics are the same. We assume that they are the same everywhere in the universe. So that's why I was saying, I suppose that the very first steps should be always very similar. But then with complexity, then you have a lot of options, and you don't know if you end up with, you don't even know if you end up with intelligent life.
So still diversity can be even larger using the same physical laws as we apply on Earth. This is your
the very last thing, something else. We are used to the life conditions which are now, but for example, for billions of years there was no oxygen in the atmosphere.
Yes.
And there were only microorganisms. At some point, for some reason related to geological events, there was an event which is called great oxygenation. And what happened? Almost all the living organisms died because they were not able to sustain oxygen.
Yes.
And only a very specific niche of organisms which developed photosynthesis and this thing started to rise. And from there, we are the very, very last step. But just to make you understand, for 2 billion of years, the men, including our oldest parents, let's say 1 million, probably 2-3 billions, but for 2 billion of years, there were not the conditions on the Earth for multicellular, complex, and then intelligent life to develop.
Yeah, but you cannot deny that using the same physical laws, there are some constraints on the, for example, the size of the organisms on Earth, for example, or on a planet. Because, for example, a dinosaur was the largest animal on Earth which could survive not breaking his leg into pieces because of the gravity. So there are still some physical constraints on the
Yeah, but I think that this comes a posteriori.
Okay.
I mean, given the path taken by the evolution of complexity, those organisms develop. But if we go back, it could have happened. It could have happened that we never ended with dinosaurs. If there was not, for example, this great oxygenation event, probably here on the Earth still we will have simple organisms not using oxygen, using iron, whatever. And this depends on what? This depended on the geological events of the Earth, how the Earth was formed, and so on and so on.
Okay, I understand. So your message is that we don't even need any change of the physical laws or constants in order to have huge diversity for aliens. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let me come back to what already Professor Kroplewski mentioned. That scientists, philosophers, and theologians, in fact, they have attempted to answer the questions, or where is the difference between inanimate life, biological life, and conscious life. So there was a suggestion already also made by you that complex systems of particles give some emergence of what we call biological life and then eventually conscious life. Still, it was also mentioned about this artificial intelligence, whatever it is, that it can be considered a live organism, which I'm not sure, because as far as I know, the artificial intelligence is strongly supported by the programmers, humans, who actually keep it being alive. But anyway, I want to come back to the question from the point of view, maybe first fundamental physics and then philosophy and maybe psychology, theology. What is the difference, in your opinion, Vincenzo, in inanimate, biological, and conscious life? Because this is clue for understanding the levels of the life. Complexity?
I'm very far from being an expert. From what I'm reading, I can tell you that I guess that's the point: complexity. And I will tell you more. I don't even know, to add more variability, I guess there are many types of complexity. Because, for example, as far as I know, scientists, in which humans, let me rephrase. When we want to understand the evolution of man, and we look for traces in which we can say, here we have the man, people start to look for pictures, drawings, because we even didn't know if they were able to talk, because sometimes language is considered like one of the main differences between human beings and other species, because pictures and drawings refer to abstractions, the ability to have abstract thoughts. And this is considered like the first evidence of, let's say, modern humans. I don't know if it's Homo sapiens or Homo sapiens sapiens, I don't know. But this is just how they arrived to this. I guess because of the specific path, which complexity, I mean connections in the neurons in our brain, took. But it could have taken a completely different path. We could still be human beings, but with different abilities, with different faculties, with a different intelligence. I don't know this. So I guess, in my position, is the complexity. And actually, about artificial intelligence, I can tell you that there are actually two different, well, there are many opinions, but two main paths. The people who say that hardware is important. By hardware, I mean, in this case, the brain. And for these people, artificial intelligence will never be like humans because the hardware is different. Mm-hmm. Other people instead think that it is the software. So they say it doesn't matter if you have neurons or a chip. If we are able to write an algorithm mathematically, the way logical thoughts are produced, and we give these as a software to chips, then artificial intelligence could evolve its own complexity and be, let's say, alternative to humans. So there are these two. So what is hardware or software? This is one of those things which I guess biologists are studying because it's not clear at all.
But my criticism of this is that this software of artificial intelligence is actually supported by the humans who are writing this software. So somehow not an independent entity.
Anyway, I have an allegory about this because I'm a father, I have a son, I have a daughter, and now I'm supporting them and energetically because I give them food. But then when at some point already they have their own consciousness, they will behave like totally independent from the point of view of consciousness beings. Why this cannot even happen with machines, with artificial intelligence? I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same. It's just a parallelism.
Okay, let us give some chance to comment on that by Professor Kroplewski.
If I can just say a few words to the topic you were just talking about, because this what is very interesting with artificial intelligence, as Professor Dąbrowski, Mariusz, as you said, of course, it is made by human beings, by people. That's out of questions. But the problem is that today this artificial intelligence, when it is made the way that in some 20 years ago we couldn't imagine. Artificial intelligence can learn by itself. So it means that it can take some kind of knowledge, some kind of data from previous. We could call it from previous experience. Mm-hmm. So we could tell it the same as we do in human beings. We are human beings also because we have learned through experience. If the child wouldn't have an environment and wouldn't answer to some kind of stimulus, they wouldn't develop. Young people wouldn't develop. And it is now this idea of artificial intelligence is that it is created by the human being, by the researchers, by the mathematics, whatever. And now it is starting to develop by itself because of some kind of experience, some kind of more knowledge, more data they are having, and then they are expanding. It is amazing, but it is also some kind of dangerous thing because we don't know how far this artificial intelligence can develop by itself. And then where is the point? When artificial intelligence is no more under the human being control. And this point will come.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think it's so simple. I still think that human are necessary for this. But yeah, but I would like to support it. I would like to ask your vision as a psychologist and also a theologian. What you think about this difference between inanimate, biological and conscious life? Is there anything more than just complexity? As nowadays what Vincenzo said is actually one of the views of many physicists, that complexity is the, having billions of particles make it complexity, and then we have emergence of biological and then eventually even conscious life, not artificial but real human intelligence. What do you think? Or is there anything else?
But I think the best word is what you already have said, complexity. Because we cannot look at the life just from one science or one point of view. We cannot look at them at life only from biology point of view. We cannot look only from medicine or whatever, because we as psychologists really we have a very, as we could say, very difficult paradigm in our researches, because we are not dealing with particulars, with the biology. We deal with biological life because we say that psychological experience, psychological processes are driven out from biology because it is driven out from our brain. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that our psychological life is only the matter of particular of our brain or whatever. It is a little bit more. Because when, for example, when we are talking now, is it only our biological system that allowed us to make the statements, make the thinkings, reasoning, drawing implications and whatever? Probably yes. But it is a little bit different because we don't have experience, our psychological experience. It is not like this, that we know that it is drawn from our brain. Yes. We just think about it as natural and as our thinking. And really it is the problem with psychology, because, psychology, the name of psychology comes from psychic and science. So really, I also really wrote an article once, already a long time ago, that today's psychology is a psychology without psych, because really we are more experimental psychology now. Really, we don't. Really, even in psychology, we don't have a lot of researches about the most important thing, really, who we are as our psychological thinking, as our mind, what we are thinking about ourselves. We are just having empirical data, and it is very, very short and narrow, and we are talking about how some kind of experiences and some kind of our behaviors are founded by some correlations or some kind of experience. But we, in psychology, and in my opinion, it is a little bit...
sorry, our psyche is a complex phenomenon.
It is very complex phenomenon, because it is
a phenomenon which resulted in complexity of our mind. Yes, only.
Yes, of course, because it is, there are a lot of things. It is we need brain, we need the particles they are in our brain. We need experience. And we say that it is some kind of not some kind of extraordinary thing that we cannot really tell what is it. We cannot say what is it, because our identity, for example, we know we are all. That's also a psychological question: who we are as human beings. Mm-hmm. And it is very difficult to answer who we are, because we could say, from a biological point of view, we could say. Also from a psychological point of view, and then we are coming to theology or religious point of view, that we are a little bit more than just a particulars. But it is psychology doesn't want to tell it about or to make any research about it, because it is not empirically to check.
Okay.
I have a very short provocative comment, only provocative.
Okay.
For people who don't think that from artificial intelligence could not become intelligent on its own. I have two examples. Life must have started from non-living things. Molecules are not living. They started to join, and then life came out. Second, we live, and our life is based on DNA. DNA is not living, but it is a sequence of molecules with some instruction. So the idea that from providing to AI some instructions, which try to replicate our logic, our way of thinking, could sometime, I don't know when and how, could evolve an independent intelligence. I don't think it's not so crazy, because life started from non-living things. And that's all. Provocative, just provocative.
Provocative, but my question is the following. Does artificial intelligence need any sources of energy? And what energy is it? If we cut this energy, would it exist?
But you never know.
To support itself by energy.
But you never know if artificial intelligence will become so much intelligent to take control of the source of energy to avoid the interference of man. There are a lot of movies about this. You never know.
Mariusz, couldn't you imagine that this energy could be taken from solar energy? Energy is just to have some kind of solar and if
but artificial intelligence nowadays only works on hard disks of the computers. Okay, so and this is supported by energy which keeps these computers going. If I turn off computers, there will not be any artificial intelligence.
I will tell you that in this case, probably Hollywood has seen the future, because in most of the movies, there is always a war between machines and men, because machines have taken men as slaves. So the machines become so powerful, intelligent, that they understand that they cannot avoid the presence of men, because the men need to turn on and off the energy.
Okay.
It could be. You never know.
That in that sense, I agree. Okay, the last questions to Professor Kroplewski, benefiting from him being a theologian. Do you think that alien civilizations be religious or atheistic, non-religious? And why would you think so?
It's not religious, not atheistic. It is, in my opinion, it should be much more science or some scientific proof, and we shouldn't add it too much beliefs, especially connected with theology. There is also an article, because I just looked about these topics in internet, but as you know, we have a lot of things in internet now, because there is an article about Immanuel Kant, and he was very much convinced that it is some kind of extraterrestrial life. And then, because he was Protestant, so Christian, and really a lot of theologians and philosophers who were linked with Christianity were also linked with Immanuel Kant thinking and books and his thoughts that he has written. So it was a big discussion. How could it be possible if we looked at extraterrestrial life from this theological point of view? And I really didn't think that it could go to so many ways, because they were also telling that, because in my opinion, it is not correct, but they say that it is, it should be a quite different kind of God if we have extraterrestrial life. It could be another kind of God, because if we in Christianity have incarnation, God's incarnation, that's the most crucial idea in Christianity. So it means that if we have extraterrestrial life, it should be God who is going to incarnate in their life, because their life probably is quite different than ours. And probably God also should save them, but in different way. And the question is, it is still the same God, or it is another God who is going to save the people? In my opinion, it is just deduction and some thoughts, because really most things we are talking about, it's not empirical knowledge. I think that you, as a scientist in cosmology, you both probably agree with me. It is much more thinking, assumption, than empirical knowledge. And it is good to have these thoughts and to think about it and to have some deductions. But it is only deduction, so it means that it is it will never be very certain, and we will never prove it. It is this way or it is a different way. So anyway, we could talk about extraterrestrial life, and it is not against theology, it is not against atheistic point of view. It doesn't mean, I think, in my opinion, it shouldn't be involved our faith and our beliefs of us, if people some are religious or non-religious persons.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, that's a reasonable explanation of the thing, but I'm asking, somehow representing also the audience who may ask these type of questions. And now,
yes, of course,
that you clarified this. Okay, I'm kind of also representative of the people whom I think who would think about something. Okay, yes, we are now approaching the end of this debate. Shortly, I understand that Professor Kroplewski already said somehow, based on this school students questionnaire in Sweden, that you believe that extraterrestrial civilizations are possible, and they are not against even fate. They are just, we need to investigate, wait, and eventually one day we may face them as reality. Is that correct?
Yes, of course.
And Professor Salzano, what you think? There are or there are not extraterrestrial civilizations?
I will tell you how generally I conclude my classes with students. And I tell them we are not special. Because if you say that we are special, then there will be implication, ethical implication. I say them we are not special. We have just won the lottery. That's the point. It was possible. It happened. maybe it is possible that it happens in other places. Yes. I believe that life can start in other places. I'm very skeptical that it could arrive to the level of complexity for having intelligent life and intelligent life that wants to communicate. But in principle, I'm quite. Yesterday, I was telling you that I became cosmologist because I was watching this movie, Contact, written by in which Carl Sagan, an astronomer, was also involved. And there was a sentence in this movie. It was a sort of mantra. The universe is so huge that if we are alone, it will be a waste of space. But this is more a hope, I would say.
Okay, that's not a Occam razor, obviously. Thank you very much. So with this conclusion, let me stop this discussion. I would like to thank very much my guests, Professor Kroplewski and Professor Zalcano. Also, thank you very much our audience on Zoom and YouTube. Okay, we still have some comments. Okay, yeah, maybe. Okay. There are a lot of comments, but not not questions. So perhaps we will not be answering, commenting it. Yeah, so thank you very much for your participation, your attention. I would like to mention that you were the guest of the Eureka Foundation, who is performing has performed the discussion forum about extraterrestrial life and civilizations and the problem where they are and how to search for them. Here in the background, you can see, for example, here the pieces of art made by students for the competition about how the extraterrestrial aliens look like. And I think we should continue this topic perhaps once in the future again. Thank you very much for listening us. Please visit our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com and then /Fundacja Eureka to see all the films related to the topic. Thank you very much and have a nice
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.